The 49ers are going to have a few positions that I think will be up for grabs this year. I asked you ahead of time, Jesse, what were two positions or just position groups, I guess, in general that you thought that those players could go in and take that starting spot at?
Whoa. All right. Well, this one's uh this one's tough because I feel like there's more out there than what we think. The first one that comes to mind is that second cornerback spot.
Mm,
So I look at Mosley and I like Mosley. I think he's a starting corner in this league. He's a lower tier starting corner, but he should be a starter in this league. I like what he brings to the table an awful lot. And I think he's a pretty good player, to be real with you. That being said, if Ambry Thomas comes in and shows out, he can easily take that spot.
that's fair.
Okay. So that right there is the one that I'm most intrigued with. And I hope that at the very least it's a close competition, or we hear about it being a close competition, because then that would tell me that if something happens to Verrett or happens to Mosley, that Ambry Thomas could step in and play decent at least. So that's the first one. I would say the second one that I'm looking at, I mean, I feel like we talk about it all the time. It has to be that third wide receiver, right?
Yeah, it
Like,
has to
who's it
be.
going to
I
be? We have
mean,
15. I don't know for sure how many we have, but it feels
yeah.
like we have 15 receivers on this
I,
team.
I told this to Grant yesterday. I don't think we necessarily have the most talented wide receiver room in the league, but we have
Right.
a really crowded wide receiver room. We have
Yeah,
all these guys who are
extremely.
considered at the same level.
Yep.
And I mean, I hate to steal your thunder, Jesse, but I mean, wide receiver three, that's the first thing I looked at when I thought about this. It's either going to be some combination of Jawan Jennings, maybe they sign D.D. Westbrook, maybe it's Jalen Hurd if he's
Mm-hmm.
healthy, Travis Benjamin. I mean, I feel like there's 6, 7 different guys I could list off right now who could compete for that wide receiver three position. And listen, if you trade for Julio, changes things drastically, obviously.
Yeah.
But for the 49ers right now, I mean, that's going to be the position to watch in camp when fans finally get to come back. And specifically what I thought was interesting, what I saw from OTAs and what I heard from Grant yesterday was that Travis Benjamin was with the backups, and Jawan Jennings was actually with the starters when he went to OTA. So I'm really excited about Jawan Jennings. I don't want to get my hopes too up, but if he can get some targets this year, if they can get him involved in the offense a little, let's say an injury happens here or there, I'd be very interested in the skill set that he brings to this team.
Yeah, I think the 49ers do a really good job of kind of creating this farm system where they keep guys on the practice squad all year that most teams would probably not do that with. You know, we saw it with Maven, and then at safety, and then we saw it with Jennings. The year before, we saw it with a couple different running backs. So they do a good job of holding on to guys, developing them, letting them sit on the practice squad, learn the system, and then try to see if they can make them something the next year. And that's something that Shanahan's done a very good job of. So I am curious to see if Jennings can bring something to the table. Obviously, the guy that we all hope turns out is going to be Hurd. Even Jimmy G came out and said it in an interview. He's like, listen, this guy is an absolute freak athletically. He runs crisp routes. When he gets on the field, you're going to see a difference maker. That's somebody he's excited about. So it's funny because I think we're told a lot that it's fan hype. Oh, he hasn't done anything yet. It's fan hype. And why would you expect anything? And you read that or hear that a lot. But then when the starting quarterback or should be starting quarterback of the team comes out and says, hey, this guy's the real deal 3 years later, okay, there's a reason to be optimistic here.
All right, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the way the 49ers have, like you said, taken those players, stuck them at the ends of the roster, and let them develop over time. I mean, they've reaped the rewards. Look at a guy like Kendrick Bourne, an undrafted free agent. And
Yep.
maybe this situation's a little different, but Jason Verrett, it's the same sort of philosophy. Taking guys who other teams might not like to have on the roster and saying, no, we know there's value in this player and that if he gets right, we're going to get a ton out of him. And,
Right.
you know, maybe that's bitten the 49ers a few times, but it seems to be working out in general. I think it's one of the better moves that this regime has done and one of the better philosophies that this regime has. But the second position I want to get to, because I did pick a second, I was between a few. I got to be honest. Cornerback, something I thought a lot about. Edge, honestly, something I thought a lot about too. I think they need more depth there, but I finally landed on running back too. And
Yeah.
I think
Good point.
for me, when Jeff Wilson Jr. got injured, that completely changed things. We're going to be looking at potentially 3, 4 different guys competing for that spot that I'm talking about. We're talking about Trey Sermon, Elijah Mitchell, the 2 rookies, right? And then, of course, Wayne Gallman, who the team signed, and JaMychal Hasty, who's still on the team, and who I listen, I really like him. I think maybe I wouldn't love him as your running back too, but he certainly should get some competition in that running back room. And I think
Yeah.
I'm really excited, even with the injury of Jeff Wilson Jr., for all the different variety that we're going to get from this run game this year.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, I personally picked Wilson Jr. to be the leading rusher for this team, so that was definitely a bummer. But with that said, somebody else gets a chance to step up, and that's always fun to watch as well.
And for me, the one guy I'm looking at, Trey Sermon. Come on. I mean,
Yeah.
I think honestly, he could even be the starter full on by the end of the year. I mean, if one injury happens, Trey Sermon is probably running back 1 for this team, which,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't love that because I like to have 3 running backs who are really good, but man, Trey Sermon is awesome, and he'd be great with a lot of run on this team.